Dear students, my name is Andrei Ouța and I am currently working as assistant professor at University of Ljubljana, Faculty of Health Sciences. My field of expertise is food hygiene, with a special interest in food handlers' impact on food safety. Before you start with food safety module, I would like to explain why food safety is important, what are the major hazards and risks originating from aquaponics, and how they should be addressed. Consumers are more than ever concerned about obtaining safe food. Food safety is about handling, storing, and preparing food to prevent illness. However, food hygiene makes it possible to assure safe food, because you should understand food hygiene as conditions and measures necessary to ensure that safety of food from production to the consumption. And this is the official definition of food safety prepared by international bodies. Everyone who sells food, regardless the amount, has both an ethical and legal obligation to ensure that food is safe to consume. All steps in the food chain, from farm to fork, or in case of aquaponics we should say from raft to the plate, including plant harvesting and fish slaughter, should be managed in the way that ensures that the food is safe. Hazard and risk are the terms commonly used in scenarios where possible adverse outcomes are expected. Though these two terms are related to each other, they are distinct entities with different meanings. In the context of food safety, a hazard can be classified as a substance or agent present in food that has the ability or the potential to cause an adverse health effect to the consumer. For example, salmonella as biological agent may be present in raw eggs. Ingestion of salmonella may result in food poisoning. Therefore, salmonella in food is considered as a biological hazard and may also pose a potential risk to the consumer. Although salmonella may be present in raw eggs, the risk for getting salmonella, food poisoning, is minimal when the eggs is truly cooked before consumption to eliminate the hazard and thus minimizing the chance of exposure. However, if the eggs are eaten raw, the health risk from salmonella in eggs will be higher as a result of the higher likelihood that the hazard will be present and consumed. In general, we distinguish between three types of food-related hazards and allergens, which can be treated as a fourth group. The biggest focus in aquaponics during this model will be on microbiological hazards. However, we will not completely ignore the others. Because of great variety of potential produce, food safety norms are not explicit for aquaponics produce, and therefore there are no specific EU regulations yet. At the moment, aquaponics falls under the common EU policies related to agriculture, fisheries, food safety, and the environment. Table on this slide lists the key European Union regulations on food safety. This regulation, for example, lays down the key principle that everyone working in the food business must ensure hygienic practices at every stage of the production process. The major risk from warm-blooded animals is the introduction of Escherichia coli, and birds can carry salmonella. Escherichia coli, salmonella, and Listeria monocytogenes are the main foodborne pathogens that can be within the recirculating water system and have been shown to survive in these conditions. Additionally, fish from non-reliable sources can introduce foodborne viruses and diseases that are not commonly associated with fruits and vegetables. Besides that, parasites such as Cryptosporidium and Giardia lamblia can be introduced with water itself. Therefore, source of water used in aquaponics is very important for the safety of final product. We should not forget about Homo sapiens, the workers in aquaponics system, which can also introduce pathogens we would not expect from other parts of aquaponic system. Most fish do not contain significant levels of human disease-causing hazards. If fish are thermally treated before consumption, any contamination is usually quickly eliminated. We are talking about microbiological contamination. However, special care is needed if fish will be prepared for one of the raw dishes, for example sushi, carpaccio, etc. In this case, we are dealing with high-risk food. Leafy greens and other raw produce are also high-risk products because of the reasons which are listed on this slide. To prevent the occurrence of hazards, aquaponic producers should implement preventive measures in form of good agricultural practice and good hygienic practice as strategies to eliminate or reduce the risk to an acceptable level. A hazard analysis and critical control point system demonstrates preventive approach which should be implemented as an upgrade of good agricultural and good hygienic practice. Altogether, good practices and HACCP system present food safety management system, in this case for aquaponic plant. Contamination sources for food products which are addressed by good agriculture and good hygienic practice are environment, facility where aquaponic is situated, equipment used in the process, people dealing with aquaponic system, and animals and pests which are not allowed to be present except fish. We will pay special attention to cross-contamination prevention. What is cross-contamination? We are talking about process by which microorganisms or other hazards are unintentionally transferred from one substance or subject to another, with a harmful effect for the consumer. The concept of cross-contamination is usually used in terms of cross-contamination by microorganisms and lately, frequently also in terms of allergens. Cross-contamination routes are from produce to produce, from food to food, through the equipment, containers and accessories, through workers, through inappropriate cleaning procedures, and through other possible means of transport like insects or rodents. During the course, we will go through elements of good practices which are dealing with the location, equipment, worker hygiene, water supply and fish feed. We will also talk about harvesting and processing of the produce, very important cleaning and sanitation, how to control animals and pests, and how to deal with waste and hazardous substances. At the end, we will implement HACCP system. First, we need a product description. It is important, for example, to take into consideration whether sensitive segments of the population, for example children, pregnant women, etc., may consume our final product. Next step is a flow chart. It is easier to identify routes of potential contamination and suggest methods of control if we have flow chart, a graphical demonstration of our process. During hazard analysis, we will list all the hazards that may be reasonably expected. The potential risk of each hazard at each step of the process will be assessed by considering its likelihood of occurrence and severity using the model available and described in your textbook. The next step is determination of critical control points. Critical control point is defined as a step at which control can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it into acceptable level. Determination of the critical control points will be done by the application of the decision tree, which is also available to you in your textbook. For each critical control point determined at the previous step, if any, you need to define critical limits. Monitoring is scheduled measurement or observation at the critical control point relative to its critical limits. And corrective action is any action to be taken when the results of monitoring at the critical control point indicate a loss of control. This is a short overview of the module entitled Food Safety. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I am looking forward to discuss with you any question which will appear to you either on LinkedIn discussion group or through my email, which is listed on the slide.